Welcome to the CHCH Newsmakers podcast. I'm your host, Rick Zamperin. If it's making news in Hamilton, Halton, and Niagara, across Canada or around the world, you will catch it on Newsmakers. McMaster University's first student-run economics magazine has just released its premiere issue. It's called The Rational Choice, and issue number 1 focuses on the hot topics of tariffs and international trade. Joining Newsmakers today is the magazine's logistics director, Sidra Anjum, and editor-in-chief, Hridi Paul. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
You had a big event last night with the premiere issue now publicized and released. How did that go?
It was amazing.
Yeah, it felt surreal to just hold a copy,
right,
in your hand after working hard for it so long.
Yeah, it was like 1 year in the making. For this magazine. And
so from idea to publication.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was 1 year. We were planning out every month, step by step, making sure that we were meeting deadlines and the quality of what we were creating was perfect. We really wanted to emphasize that this magazine would not just represent student voices, but it would become a long-term project that even after I graduate, after Sidra graduates, this becomes an ongoing magazine.
Right.
So it was a long time in planning.
So this wasn't a course project. This was something that you said, this needs to happen.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So why was there an outcry to say, oh, we need something to talk about?
Yeah, so actually, just last year, right? The discussion of tariffs started,
Yep.
right? Hridi and I shared intermediate macroeconomics 2 together as a class, and our department head, Dr. Marc-André Letendre, teaches that class, and so. Usually when you're in these classes, it's very quiet because the stuff that's in the class, like the material that's taught, is very complicated, so you have to focus. Right. We don't really get the time to really interact with students during the class. But that afternoon, when the professor came in, he was like, you know what, today we're going to talk about what's actually happening around the world, because that's what economists do.
Right.
And tariffs was such a hot topic at that time, and he was talking about what's going on, what are its implications, what are you going to see like in the next year or so. And what was really interesting to me and Hridi was that all our classmates were just asking questions. They were very curious.
Yes.
And they were so involved in the topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and on top of that, a lot of our classmates were very concerned of what that meant for them and individual consumers.
Right.
I think when you hear like buzzwords like tariff war, you get worried and you get scared that something's going to happen and it's going to trickle down to you and your family. And so I think a lot of students in the class, they didn't know what the tariff war would mean for them. And so that's what kind of inspired this magazine, because now it's been a year, we know what the tariffs are, we've seen it in action. And so that was why we wanted to start the magazine, was because students had questions and they didn't know where to go, and they wanted to have these conversations in a community where they didn't feel like they didn't know what to say.
Right.
I wanted to create like a safe space for students to ask questions, to propose solutions as well, and that's what the magazine here is all about.
So many people nowadays, especially from your age group, would say, you know what, let's do a podcast. But you have flipped the script and said, let's do a magazine, which many people say, they're dying, but clearly it's not. I mean, the publication looks great, the quality's awesome, the written material is, on point. Why a magazine? What led you to that route?
I grew up in love with magazines.
Okay.
I have a huge collection of National Geographic, even The Economist. As I was growing up, I always had magazines. I feel like everything has turned digital nowadays, and it's just there's something very beautiful about writing your own work and seeing it published and then holding it in your hand. So that was why we wanted to go with the magazine. On top of that, in our faculty, out of all of the clubs, the Economics Society, we wanted to be one of the first clubs to have a magazine, because out of all of the social science clubs, there wasn't a single magazine publication, and so we thought it would make us stand out and we would be different amongst the crowd. And because, like Sidra said, we're a very small department, so it would be really awesome to kind of showcase our work through a physical copy.
Mm-hmm. It looks fantastic. Sidra, what kind of feedback are you getting from the magazine?
I mean, first of all, you can see this stunning cover, right? Our designers, our editors, and our writers have worked really hard to compile this incredible magazine. I think because it's a student magazine, we really wanted it to make it look like a student magazine as well. So it's a really good mix. I think what feedback we got yesterday was it's a really good mix of making it professional, but also making sure that all their creativity shines through it.
Right.
So that's something that we really emphasize. This is the logo of our magazine, the rational choice, and you have the chess piece right in the middle. And yeah, like people have worked really hard, and yesterday I think everyone was really happy to see it come live. A lot of them have not seen the design before, and this was their first time seeing it. So it was just, I think, it was a little magical for everyone. Yeah.
Talk about like producing it, like physically producing it. What went into the concept, the design, actual making of it, and did you expect to get what you got?
Yeah. Honestly, like when we first started planning out the magazine, I had no idea what the final project would look like, and now that it's here and it's alive, it's become something more than I could have ever expected it to be. During like the whole process, we really wanted to emphasize the fact that economics can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. I think when people think about economics, we see like these really long like research papers, and that's hard to digest if you don't know much about economics. And so our main focus of the magazine was making it fun, making it creative, and making it the space for students who have never known about economics to engage with it in a digestible and fun way. And so I love that we were able to do like a creative approach with the cover, with every article. There's a theme. I think that's why we wanted the magazine to happen in this way, and I'm really proud of it.
So who is contributing to the magazine, and will that change from issue to issue?
Yeah, so in terms of who's contributing, because we're in the Economic Society, majority of the people that have contributed to this current magazine are people within our economics faculty. Undergraduate students, first years, second years, third years, that are really, really passionate about economics. But the goal of this magazine is not to just encompass people that are within the faculty, but to have it cross-disciplinary, because when you study economics, you realize how interrelated and interconnected everything is, right? Coming out of this degree and the use of our degree, it's applicable in so many different fields and so many different sectors. I don't think a lot of the students in different faculties realize how much economics is within their own industries.
Right.
Exactly.
So our goal for this magazine is, although we're starting within the Economic Society, we want to expand and really ensure that all voices between all faculties are being heard, and all students get a chance to really know how economics is within their lives, in whatever work they're doing, in whatever career that they're in.
Is the magazine free?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And is it going to be a monthly, a weekly, a quarterly?
So this year, because it's our first year doing a magazine, we are releasing 2 issues. So this is issue 1, and we have our second issue coming out in the end of March, beginning of April. So we're very excited about that. We actually launched the theme for our second issue, which is Economic Horizons, and that's going to focus on predicting the future of economics and what we think will happen in the next few years, even in the next 100 years. So yeah, that's what I'm very excited to see.
I want to get back to that point, but is there a particular story in this issue that you're proud of, you found very interesting, you didn't expect would, grab a hold of you?
I think all the articles are really well thought of. We have different themes even within our own theme. For example, like we start off in the magazine with things that are currently happening within Canada because of the tariffs, and then we go on to commentaries. We actually interviewed 2 professors and 1 faculty member. So one of our professors is Dr. Paul Pujulas. He's within McMaster. He did around 170 interviews just this past summer.
Wow.
And the reason being because the White House used, I think, around only 5 papers to justify their tariffs, and our professor's paper was one of them. And it just really shows his paper was actually talking about, like the implications of tariffs and the pros and cons of it, but somehow the White House used it to justify their tariffs. And so that's why he, it was a really big thing, and he was all across the news. I remember in the summer we saw him a couple of times in different news channels. So we were really lucky to have him in our own magazine, within our own university. Other than that, we have a PhD student named Keith, who's also in our magazine, who's, in the process of becoming somebody as cool as Paul Pujolas.
Right.
And we also have a McMaster alumni. He's a professor in the UK, in the University of Sussex, but he also was an economist at Cambridge at one point.
Wow.
Yes.
So, very impressive alumni coming out of our faculty. And I think we're really proud of these three pieces because I feel like our faculty is not really known in the outside world, not as much, but we have such amazing people that come out of this faculty that people probably don't know of.
Right.
And I hope that when a person reads this magazine, they feel inspired and they feel like they're happy and, fulfilled in this economics department.
All right, before I forget, future of economics, let's go back to that. Do you want to start with if you're gazing into your crystal ball, what do you foresee?
For
Not only in this country, but around the world.
Okay. I think in the Davos speech by President Mark Carney, I think he made it very clear that we're not going through a transition. It's a rupture.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's what's happening right now. As students, I think we are really disproportionately are affected by the cost of living and all of the implications of tariffs, and it's just going to get stronger and stronger from there. When we're looking at our future, we already are facing unemployment, right? A lot of our students can't afford food. Like, there's a lot of daily activities that, everyday students are not, are struggling with, and that's why the whole point of this magazine is also to let out the student voice, to have the safe space for students to talk about the problems that they're going through. And so what we're seeing on campus is that although there's a lot of hardship going on, it's going to also I'm very optimistic in that sense, because I feel like it's going to just make us stronger, and it's going to just allow us to innovate more. I remember back, just 2-3 years ago, when we would talk to older students, their goal was like, okay, I want to go to New York City, I want to go to the US to go work.
Right.
With this new landscape, it's very uncertain, right? Because a friendship that Canada and US had for hundreds of years that we thought would never fluctuate is very uncertain right now. So in this uncertainty, there's a lot of hardship, but at the same time, there's a lot of room to innovate, and there's a lot of room to come together and really, unite as a country and strengthen ourselves as Canadians.
And Hridi, future, I was
of
going to say
course.
future politics, future of economics.
I want to kind of piggyback off of what Sidra said about innovation. I know it's very scary when we see the future, especially with unemployment. I have so many friends who are graduating this year who are very worried, and I know that's very scary, but I think for the future, I am very optimistic as well, and I think Canada will take a problem-solving approach. I think we saw that very early on when the tariffs first started. I had no idea that interprovincial trade barriers were a thing, and when the tariffs were enacted by the U.S., that exposed that problem.
Yeah.
And now, even though those barriers are not fully gone, Canada is actively working on fixing that and removing that and amplifying Canadian businesses across Canada. And so I know the future looks very scary at the current situation, but I do see a future where Canada is making amazing advancements in terms of economic policy, in terms of innovation, and overall, I think we are going to be driving that change in the future, and I think I'm very optimistic about that.
So many big issues, especially hitting the younger generation very hard, and you will know this, whether it's inflation, youth unemployment, the cost of housing, those trade barriers that exist that are going to make things more expensive. Do you have hope, or are you shaking your fist at the clouds saying, this has to happen?
I'm very hopeful.
Okay.
I think the conversation around economics right now it's coming to light, and we're addressing a lot of the systemic issues in Canada that everybody is facing, right? We know what's going on with our healthcare and the long ER wait times. We know that cost of living in a lot of the major cities right now are skyrocketing. I think that right now everybody's at a point where we're frustrated and we want change, and I do think that Canadians, we're strong enough to fight for that change, and I've already been seeing it. I see it in this magazine with economic students proposing solutions to these problems. So I'm very hopeful, and I think I know we're frustrated, but I do see a very optimistic future where Canadians, we're fighting for that change. And like I said, we will be driving that change. And I think we'll become an example for other countries as well.
Yeah. Do you have an idea of what could potentially improve our economy? Maybe we'll start with you, Sidra. Is there one thing that you think, man, that the government should do this, or industry should do this?
Yeah, like I would start off by saying I think one of the great things, an advantage of tariffs is how united we are as a country
Very
now.
true.
Like we have like the same point, you know, so everyone, regardless of their differences or whatever perspectives they have, we have like the same goal and we have like the same problem. So because of that, like it's great to see, you know, students united on campus. People are learning more and going, you know, like I don't think before this, a lot of people didn't even know what economics was. People didn't know what tariffs were. But I feel like in terms of literacy, like it's going very high because of, you know, the challenges that people are facing. In terms of how the economy can be fixed, I think Canada is taking the right steps to diversification. I think it's really, really important. We've relied so long only in one country, right? And like, for example, like our wood industry, right? A lot of our natural resources like petroleum, all of that stuff, it goes to the US, right? So now we're expanding our industries and we're going to different countries, making new trade agreements. I think that, you know, makes it less risky. I think, you know, putting, you don't put all your eggs in one basket type of scenario. So that's something really good. And I'm really interested to see how that goes because I think one really interesting thing is that we're not in Europe, we're not in Asia, because all of those continents are really, you know, close together. Like we have the whole Atlantic Ocean and then it's Canada and the US, right? So it's very interesting to see how a country like Canada will go through that phase. But at the same time, like for example, within our campus, like multiculturalism and diversity is very strong, right? Just like within our faculty, we like a lot of the students that are international come from China. And you know, recently Canada has you know, increased its relations with China. So it's very interesting to see how that plays. We are friends with our Chinese international students. They're like, if you're ever interested, you can come over at our place. So we're looking forward to that.
Nice. There is sometimes politics does get in the way of economics in terms of doing the right thing. And you mentioned China, you know, signing the EV deal with the Chinese car manufacturers, you know, to reduce tariffs on our canola and other agricultural things. Sometimes politics gets in the way. From an economic standpoint, it makes sense though, right? To make deals with other countries because they're not, you know, they're not the United States that are levying big tariffs on us. What's the atmosphere like on campus in terms of these kind of discussions? Is it lively? Is it somber? People sad? Are they energetic at the possibilities? What sense do you get?
I think it's very lively, and I think one thing I've noticed within our faculty, even though we're very small, everybody has such a different viewpoint on how to tackle economic issues. And so whenever I'm having these conversations, I always leave thinking, wow, I never thought about it that way. And I feel like that's exactly what we need when we're facing these economic challenges, is that we need people looking at the same problem from different perspectives. And I think that's exactly what I see on campus, and it's beautiful to me.
Yeah. What do you think the future of this magazine is? Issue number 1 is out. Issue number 2 is coming out. How many more can we see in the next few years?
Oh my goodness, I was telling Marc-Andre Letendre about this last night. I was like, I really hope that like when I graduate and I'm like 35 and I get bored one day and I search up on the internet like the rational choice McMaster, I hope it's like issue 45. Like I hope this genuinely becomes a long-term project. And I think because it is our first year, we have been recruiting students not just from 4th year or 3rd year, but from 1st year, 2nd year to get involved with the magazine process. Because this was my first time publishing a physical copy of a magazine. Usually it's been like digital for me. And so I really wanted to make sure that not only are we just focusing on the project in the now, but in the future we're building up students to pass down these skills. We want those transferable skills to pass down from me to a 3rd year, 4th year, 2nd year, 1st year. And so I hope that down the line when I am 35, I can find like the 35th issue of the magazine.
Yes, because 35 is really old. No, kidding.
I also hope like the interest continues. Like, you know, when we're talking about tariffs and all of these topics, just like when we were in first year, like no one, like a lot of the people would be like, what is economics, right? But now, like when you're in like campus and you're talking about these issues, you have a kid from health sciences talking about how it's affecting them.
Right.
You have a kid from kinesiology, humanities, right? Like engineering, like it's so interconnected. And I really hope like, this magazine inspires people to create more things like this issue, right? Stuff that unites people, serves as a body where, people's unification and people's, just, I guess their love for understanding each other goes beyond their differences.
Right.
That's the goal of this magazine. I feel like we live in a world where whenever something is different from one another, people are afraid to speak up on it, right? Everything, like, all of our complex ideas are turning into very simple sentences. I hope this magazine challenges that and really promotes the opposite, like, we want your complex ideas. We want to hear your perspectives. We want to hear your thoughts because, you never know what good idea a person can have. We need those open minds. We need that for this country, especially with the trajectory of where Canada is going. We need, human capital. We need that asset of everyone's minds coming together. And this magazine or your club or your community, just interacting with each other is what's important to get that out of everyone.
One of the terrible things in our society right now is disinformation or misinformation.
Yes.
And I'm sure this tackles a lot of it, especially with tariffs, because there's still people to this day who don't understand how they work and who it impacts. Does this and maybe future issues going to tackle that disinformation as well?
Yes. So that was another thing that when I first proposed this magazine to the department, a big part of the proposal was we were worried about the censorship we were seeing in the news and how a lot of news outlets are not fully covering the stories, not just about economics, but a lot of like worldly issues. And so when we started the magazine, we wanted to make sure that if a student is submitting their work and writing for our team, we want to make sure what they are saying and the sources they are using are reliable. And so when students submit their work, we actually ask them to cite their sources on a page, and we have a really strong team of editors who will go in and read those sources and double check on their own. So that's how we kind of make sure that the quality of the submissions are accurate and they are staying true to what they're actually saying.
Right. How many hands are in the pot in terms of creating this magazine? How many people are on the team?
Around 25.
Yeah,
Wow.
like we have a pretty large team.
Yeah, that is gargantuan, really. And they each have a specific lane that they're in?
Yes. So we have a content team. So we have a few writers that are within our club, and then we also take submissions from outside. So that's where the content happens. And then we have an editing team, just like Hridi said. We also have a marketing team to market this magazine, and we have a graphic design team. So those are primarily the 4 teams that we run. We are thinking about opening a few other teams or expanding whatever is within our current team on the basis of how this magazine is going to go. But yeah, like we're very open to expanding. We're very open to any opportunity, and we're also open to merging with other clubs or collaborating with other clubs in our university, because we really think of our university as like a little country itself. We really imagine it that way, and we want to maximize our output. Yeah.
Now the cover is really important. Who designed the cover? Let's give them a shout out.
Oh my goodness. The cover was designed by our layout team. Therese Anil, she designed this whole cover all on her own. And I remember when I first was like, when she asked me like, what do you want on the cover? I was like, something that really represents like tariffs and international trade. Like, what does that look like in Canada? And I think that's when we started talking about like, shipping to the U.S. and how a lot of the way we send our materials to the U.S. is through trucks and through driving our materials over. And so Therese completely blew it out of the ballpark with it. Like, she did amazing and she like nailed it. And so I remember like when we just said that one sentence, where I was like, I think we just like drive stuff over. She took that
concept
and she turned it into this beautiful cover.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have a sneak peek of the next cover? What it could possibly look like?
Not yet.
Okay.
But we do have a theme, like a vision for it, and I'm going in the direction of making it a collage theme.
Okay.
And so maybe the front cover will have a collage on it, but it's still in the works.
And it won't be specifically about tariffs and international trade. It's going to be it's going to run the gamut in terms of issue to issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. And I think, it goes back to just getting more faculties involved, because I feel like when you're talking about new horizons, we're talking about every industry. Like, we're trying to see if we can bring in the sports industry, the industry of like the space industry in Canada, right? Like, that's growing really fast as well. So we're really excited to bring in new industries that people, couldn't imagine be related to economics, and, really put it out there for people to go, like, economics is in every part of your lives, and you need to be literate in it.
Yeah. Last question for you. Where can we get the magazine? And is there a digital version?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a digital version.
So if you go to the McMaster Economics page, which is I think it's McMasterEconomics.ca, you'll be able to follow our society on there, and then we have our digital copy up for everybody to see for issue 1.
Okay.
And we actually have exclusive articles that didn't make it into the physical copy, which are posted on the digital copy. So if you love what you read in the physical copy, there's more.
There's a hook for you. As for the physical copy, only on campus?
Yes.
Okay.
So far, yes, but we do hope to send them out to the broader McMaster community.
All right.
Yeah, and if anyone, I think from outside, we had a few people when we were contacting that were working at McGill or the National Post. They were really interested in reading our magazine, so we're actually thinking of maybe sending out a few copies.
Yes.
Yeah. So is this the first of its kind within an educational institution in Canada, in terms of economics?
I'm not sure. There's a bunch of economics journals that we read, right? We haven't seen an economics magazine, and that's what motivated us to go towards a magazine rather than a journal, because I feel like we see enough of those in our faculty. Yeah. But if there is any McMaster Economics magazine out there, an economics magazine, we'd love to get ideas and be inspired. Yeah.
Sure. Well, you certainly have a bunch of great ideas and have offered inspiration to our viewers today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right. And that is a wrap for the Newsmakers podcast. A massive thank you as well to the All-Star cast behind the scenes. If you like today's episode, click the thumbs up, hit subscribe, leave a comment as well. Catch the Newsmakers podcast on chch.com/podcasts and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.